Hello everybody, it's Jayne from PDTraining. How are you? I'd like to talk to you today about ageism and what an ageist or being an ageist actually means. To be an ageist, it is really someone who actually puts a label on someone at a particular age, and you can yourself be an ageist by putting a particular label on your own age, which means that according to society or according to yourself, you should dress in a certain way and you should behave in a certain way at a certain age. So for example, if you're 60, perhaps it's considered, probably not so much now, but in years before, that you should stop going out and being so cool and young, and maybe it's time to slow down. And I often see this also in people who actually become ageist themselves, and they put an age on themselves and then start acting that particular age. Oh, I'm too old to go out to those pubs anymore and have a dance, or oh look, I'm far too old, my bones are starting to hurt, and my back's killing me, and my knees are crooked. Unfortunately, some of the people that do say that probably do have genuine back problems, etc., due to, ill health, etc. However, or, from actually having a career that stuffed up their back. However, in a lot of cases, people, for example, will think that they're too old and their knees are hurting, but in actual fact it's because they're probably not exercising and keeping the muscles strong around those knees, so that they can at the age of 60 still, have these joints that are protected by having strong muscles that are actually protecting those joints. For example, I had a major car accident in the year 2000. I mean, my whole left leg is pretty well steel. And what I found even this year, when I got quite sick and I couldn't exercise like I normally do on a weekly basis, and 3 or 4 times a week, I either go for a bike ride or I do some gym at home, etc. And as soon as I stop actually exercising, that's when my knees start to get worse and it hurts even more, and my back will start to feel the same. So exercise is definitely essential to keep youthful. And so when I see sometimes people, I'm sorry, I've got a fly buzzing around me, driving me crazy. And when I see people who are, already sort of just going, oh, I'm so old, and sitting around not doing anything, and spending too much time on the couch instead of getting up and getting that body up and exercising and staying youthful, eating properly, etc. I mean, this is what's going to keep you youthful. And sure, some people are blessed with looking younger than what they are. I'm very fortunate at 60 that, I've got genetics that, make me look younger. However, I also, I've kept young and I've kept slim because I'm very self-conscious about being a person who's unhealthy and having too much weight on my body. And I take a lot of pride in my appearance, I guess, and I eat healthily. And, sure, we are going to get diseases, etc., if we don't look after ourselves. So if you are one of these people that you're constantly telling yourself, well, I'm 60, I'm 65, I'm getting old, and it makes you less motivated because the way you think is how you will actually behave, well then, get up and stop being an ageist and don't put this age on yourself. And remember, as a person who lived with me, who happened to be highly educated and was a registrar at a particular hospital, who was sharing my place with me, and he said to me, Jayne, 65 is considered to be middle age now. And this is because, many years ago, yeah, sure, people died at the age of 65. Our lifespan was much shorter. So, of course, at 40, you were starting to get on in life. But these days, people are living till 100 or are past 100. And this is because of our health system and the technology that we have and the medications that we have, and the science behind longevity, as well as, clean water, better health systems, etc. in developed countries. So of course we're living a lot longer, and of course we're looking a lot younger, because a lot of people do consider exercise and diet as being important, and so we are living longer lives because we're more educated in this way. So to be an ageist yourself really limits your ability to do some things in your life, which is like the exercise, for example, but also by still going along and working and doing things like maybe going out and having a dance and being youthful and enjoying life and considering that you can still hike and you can still travel. Now, I remember when I first separated at the age of 26 from my first husband, thinking I was too old when my sister-in-law asked me out to go out to a nightclub, that I was far too old. You know, at 26, because I'd been married since I was 17, and I came from a fairly conservative background. You know, I'm from a European background, and drinking and alcohol and partying and all this was not really, you know, what you do. And so, you know, I hadn't even touched my first drink at that stage. So I remember feeling quite much older. I'd had 2 children, of course I'd matured, and I'd been working and I'd left home since I'd been 15. So I was working in Melbourne by myself. So, you know, I kind of did really, like, I was an ageist, and thankfully to my sister-in-law, it liberated me, and I went out and I discovered, no, and in actual fact I'm quite young still, and I've maintained that right throughout my life. But I know that as I started to get up to 40, etc., you know, I started to think about what society expected of me. Now, remembering I'm 60 now, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, this was a, you know, very different world. And so you didn't see that many 60-year-old people out there dancing or going to a pub, having a drink and enjoying themselves as much, or going to festivals and all this sort of thing. So I got to an age where I was actually really liberated, but I was a little bit worried that society would be frowning upon me, that I was still, you know, partying and going out in my 40s, etc. And even now, I don't mind occasionally going out and having a bit of a dance on the dance floor. I mean, I'm not much of a pub goer, but that's because, you know, I've kind of lost interest over the years, and I think that happens through maturity, and I don't think that's because I'm an ageist. But ageism is also something society can put on people, and it depends where you are too. If you're in a Western developed country, which is very democratic, of course you'll be definitely behaving, especially in Australia. You know, you'll see people like, I met a lady the other day, it absolutely amazed me. She was in 82 and she was still working as a relief teacher, and she said to me, well, you know, she said, I retired, but I want to still keep on, you know, getting some extra money and also still being young and working, you know. She said, I don't want to just stay at home and start to give up on life, so working keeps me young. And actually, you know, I wouldn't have dreamt that she was in her 80s. I would have thought about 68, 70 maybe, but she was lively and she was able to do the job. It wasn't like she was limping around and hobbling around. And yet I can see other people who are 80 and they've just like totally, you know, they are really seriously quite elderly, and some of them can't walk because they haven't exercised in life, and there's no muscle tone there. I mean, if you don't use it, you lose it, and that's a fact of life. So yeah, I would say to you, to remember that, you know, do not put an age on yourself and then expect you look. You know, I've changed in the way I dress. Sure, I have, as I've gotten older, you know, because I prefer to dress in a different way. When you're 20, you can get away with dressing in another way. As you mature, yeah, there's certain things that you might want to change, and so I dress in a different way, but that's because of my personal preference, not because, you know, I've been told that's the way I should be. And I think there is a way of aging gracefully, and, you know, when you see someone who's very, very old and they're still like in the 20-year-old, 19-year-old clothes that look pretty hot on a 19-year-old, but not that great on a 70-year-old, it's probably time to sort of reflect and go, maybe they don't suit me as much anymore. But certainly, you know, you might be a younger person and will you know, who won't actually dress in a certain way, or you could come in from another cultural background, and so you're expected at 40 to be very different. And for example, some cultures may think that 50 they're very old. And also you remember, in poorer cultures, people would die sooner, so maybe being 50 is quite old in comparison to now. So I wanted to talk to you about it, and there is a thing, ageism, and it is actually a term where society puts an age on people and expects them to behave in a certain way and expects them to dress in a certain way. So this is my message to you. Don't be an ageist about yourself. Don't be an ageist in society about other people and being so critical about other people who are still deciding to keep their youth and enjoy life and still go to festivals even if they're 70. And I love it when I on the streets of Brisbane or something, I saw one lady, and look, she must have been about 80, and she was kicking her heels up in the street to a band. And I thought, good for you. Good for you. And you could see the laughter and the smiles, and it was a little bit, it was sort of, I looked and I thought, now why are there certain people who smile embracing the fact that she was getting up there and she was dancing? Because, and this is what I found, yes, you do mature, and you do, as you grow older, you get wiser. But sometimes, as the body ages, it doesn't necessarily mean your mind is not still just the same in a lot of ways, and you still feel like you're this younger person. I know I do. I feel much younger than my years. And I want to tell you a story about Sylvie, and it was a lady who was in hospital with me many years ago. I must have been about 30. I was quite sick with asthma, and I always remember, and she'd had a stroke and she couldn't move, and the nurses would come in there and be quite rough the way they moved her around, and of course she couldn't move. So I never heard her complain, and I wrote this beautiful song called Sylvie to her. And one day I asked if I could just take her in the chair out of the bed and just take her out to the garden. I was in a private hospital on private health, and it was a beautiful hospital, and they granted me permission. I said, look, just want to take her out. And it was absolutely amazing, because Sylvie told me about her life. And when I was talking to her, because Sylvie was probably about 85, 87, of course, having a stroke. And I remember saying to her, oh my God, sometimes the way those nurses and that talk to you or push, move you around, how does it make you feel? And she said, really annoyed. And she said, but, I don't say anything because, she said, I don't say anything, but sometimes I feel like saying, just get away and leave me alone. And I said to her, well, speak up, honey. Get up there and speak up, because, you are an amazing lady. And when I spoke to her, I swear, she was just talking to me, and yet seeing her lying in the bed, I wouldn't have even thought that she was who she was. And so, just be youthful, be young, go out there and exercise, challenge society by still getting out there when you're 70 and 75 and kick those heels up and enjoy life, and don't let anybody tell you you're too old to do what you want to do in life. So I hope this has helped you. No more ageism. Take care. It's Jayne Green from PD Training. Bye for now.